Despite this build looking absolutely baller, man, I had some serious issues with this one. I definitely like how it turned out, but let me explain about some of the issues that I had so hopefully you don't run into the same things. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome to Zach's Tech Turf. There's a lot of different problems to cover on this one. I'll introduce them as we work our way through the parts list, but first up, we gotta talk about today's sponsor, and that's something that I definitely did not have a problem with. You guys know I like to keep my PC builds looking nice and clean, and I actually like to do the same with my face actually, and that's exactly why I decided to partner up with Harry's to be the sponsor of today's video. Despite not having a full-time job anymore where I gotta dress to impress and all that, I still like to keep my beard looking trimmed up and clean, and Harry's allows me to do that easily, not just with their razors, but also this super smooth shaving foam. Harry's is a personal care brand that delivers a close, comfortable shave at a fair price, which is as low as $2 per blade refill. They also support great causes as they give 1% of their global sales to nonprofits that provide mental health care to groups like my fellow veterans, which I absolutely love to hear. I know my community is all about price to performance and really stretching that dollar, and that's exactly one of the best benefits of Harry's, especially with those $2 blade refills, but they also have gift sets for the upcoming Father's Day, which are really providing some bang for your buck value. In these Father's Day kits, they also include the option to engrave them, which is a perfect way to give some customization, and they also come with a lot of really cool products like I have here. Head on down to the description to redeem your trial set of Harry's for just $3, or you can get $5 off any shave set, which comes with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, blade cover, and their foaming gel. Big thanks to Harry's for sponsoring today's video, and once again, you can check all of that out with the links down in the description. Alright, so another thing I did not have a problem with at all is this case, and this is the Antec DF700 Flux. This is now the third Flux edition case that I've checked out so far, and if you haven't seen, this Flux platform stands for Flow Luxury, and it's now an industry-leading design featuring an advanced case structure for excellent airflow. The case comes with 5 pre-installed fans. I got rid of some of them, but to be very honest, I probably could have gotten even lower temperatures if I kept it the way it was designed. Basically, the big advantage of this Flux design is that 120mm reverse fan at the top of the PSU chamber. This is here to provide cooling straight to your GPU, and that in combination with the other 4 120mm fans that it comes with would provide an overall great cooling solution for your gaming PC. These 3 ARGB fans at the front are beautiful as well. They match the aesthetic perfectly, and I simply decided to not use the 2 other fans because A, I wanted to use the Corsair AIO cooler, and B, I'm personally not a huge fan of the aesthetic of the fan above the PSU chamber, but that's certainly up to you. Big thanks to Antec for sending this one out. Links to this case and literally everything I talk about are down in the description, but now let's move on to the rest of the parts list where I did actually have some issues with. First up is the graphics card, and this is none other than the Asus Dual RTX 3070. This dual card certainly wouldn't be my first pick at the 3070 lineup, but in 2021, you get what you can, and this is one of the ones that I was able to pick up. Shout out to Oscar in the ZTT Discord server for sniping this for me, by the way. Anyways, the problem with the dual design is that you can't actually control this RGB strip here on the left-hand side. You can't even turn it off actually, unless if you completely disassemble it and physically disconnect it. That's obviously not something that I wanted to do. I don't understand why you can't control an RGB light here in 2021. People like me like to keep their colors in their PCs matching, so by only allowing it to be purple and blue, this really screws people like me over. Thankfully, my friends over at Vivid sent me a ton of vinyl to use. I don't want you to look at my vinyl job up close, but from this distance, I'm actually pretty proud with how I did this here. I actually first decided to use some white carbon fiber vinyl wrap, and if you're following me on Instagram at Zach's Tech Turf, you'll already know why that didn't work out. After installing it, you could still easily see the RGB shining through, so that's why I switched over to the black carbon fiber. To be honest, I actually think the card looks much better this way. Not only did we get rid of the purple and blue RGBs, but we're also removing the silver accent, and I think it looks much cleaner and stealthier being an all black GPU. So crisis was definitely averted on that one. Let's move on to the other problem that I had, which were configuring all of these RGBs throughout the case. You guys should already know this by now, but I always advocate that you limit the amount of different RGB products you put inside your gaming PCs, because not only is it annoying to control them with different pieces of software, but it's really annoying when different products have completely different shades of color. In this build today, we have RGBs on the motherboard, AIO CPU cooler, and the case. They literally all have a different white color, and that's why I had to move most of them to red, which in my opinion doesn't look as good. This is at really no fault at all to these products. They look perfectly fine by themselves, but by combining the white color specifically with different RGB products, they almost never work out properly. The white fans on the Antec case are a bit purplish in color, while the white on the motherboard was a little blue. I do think I found a pretty decent combination here, but this isn't originally what I thought my build was gonna look like. This is obviously a very first world problem, and I do like how it turned out. It's just not as good as I thought it was gonna be, but let's move on through the rest of this parts list. Next up is the motherboard, which we just talked about, and this is the ASRock X570 PG Velocita. This is indeed a very expensive motherboard. It performed great in my testing, but to be very honest, the only reason why I used it was because of this super sick red design, which matches our build perfectly, and I already had it because of a previous pre-roll ad that I ran for ASRock. Next up, we have the RAM, and this is simply the Crucial Ballistics 2x8GB kit that's clocked at 3200 megahertz. I originally had some RGB RAM sticks in here, but after the mess of RGBs, which I just explained about happening, I actually just swapped in these black sticks, and I definitely prefer the cleaner design with these. For a power supply, this is also a clean model as well, so clean that I didn't even feel the need to vinyl wrap it, and this is the NZXT C650, and thanks to them for sending this one out. The C650 is a fully modular PSU that's rocking that 80+ gold efficiency rating, and it's rated tier A on the LTD tier list, so you know this is a good one. Plugged into the CPU are some simple cable extensions. Once again, I went with the Formula Mod ones, and the main reason for this is just because I love the color scheme. These do actually come with the cable combs installed, but during the Twitch live stream of me building this PC, I stream every single one of my builds over on twitch.tv/ZachsTechTurf, by the way. One of our mods, Painful Chuck, finally convinced me to build my own 16-pin cable combs for the GPU cables, and I absolutely love how this turned out. Basically, I just took a 24-pin comb from the motherboard and cut it down for these 16 cables, and this looks so much better than having two separate strands of 8 cables next to each other. Thank you very much, Painful. I don't think I'll ever go back to the old way of cable combing my GPU cables. These are seriously certified clean AF. Next up, we got some help from Corsair a bit. First, they sent me this 1TB MP600 core SSD to use. Although this one does come with a beefy heatsink, I had to simply remove it because our motherboard had one as well, so I decided to just use that one. This MP600 core can rock read speeds of up to 4700 megabytes per second and write speeds of 1950, which is just obnoxiously fast. Corsair also sent over the CPU cooler, and this is the H100i Elite Capellix 240, and you guys already know how clean these AIOs look. The Capellix is not only rocking the clean pump and block assembly, but it also comes with the 2 RGB fans, and I think it looks pretty cool setting these to white as they illuminate everything throughout the entire build. And finally, the last part that we have in this system is underneath the AIO actually, and this is the Ryzen 7 3700X. The 3700X obviously isn't the newest Ryzen CPU on the market, but in all reality, the reason why I chose it was because it's now one of the easier Ryzen CPUs to get right now. If you can find and snipe the 5600X, that may be a better option for you. Keep in mind the 3700X has 2 more cores and 4 more threads, but either way you go, you will definitely be okay paired with the RTX 3070. With that being said, here's what the full parts list is looking like, and as you can see, this one came out to be a little under $1,800 if you don't include the aesthetic only options just like normal. This is definitely one of the more expensive builds that I do here on the channel, but man, it is definitely fun not only building, but testing the performance of these higher end gaming PCs. And speaking of which, testing out the performance is exactly what we need to do next. And first up, we're gonna start with Valorant, not because it's a tough one to run, but because man, it's been a few episodes since we've had a headshotting sniping montage, so we gotta fire that back up. In 1440p with high settings, this PC cranked out 215 frames per second, but that domination definitely doesn't paint the whole picture.
It's just been too long, man. Queue up this Hey! I'm trying to queue up the montage. Oh, this guy wants to die. Sit down. This game, huh? Ooh-hoo! The double. You love the double. Oh, the triple. You love the triple. Sit down. You can sit down too. Ooh, that's a diamond level kill right there. Let's go. Diamond level headshot. Diamond. Oh my god, how many times am I gonna get killed when I say that? Diamond. Diamond.
All right, so next up we have another headshot city type of game, Call of Duty Warzone obviously, and in 1440p with medium settings with DLSS turned on, I got a solid 115 FPS. After that was the brand new Outriders. Here I put the settings to 1440p and high with DLSS turned on. I've noticed that the average FPS on Ultra for this game definitely looks good on paper, but always ends up having a low 1% lows, so that's why I stayed at high, and here I got 124 frames per second. Valheim was up next. As we know, this is still definitely a tough one to run despite the basic AF character textures, and in 1440p with high settings, I got 86 FPS. Borderlands 3 followed up after that, and using the built-in benchmarking tool in 1440p with ultra settings, I got 85 FPS. Sticking with the built-in benchmarking tools, we have Rainbow Six Siege, and in 1440p with very high settings, I got 290. Same thing with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, using its tool in 1440p ultra, I got 67 FPS. Getting back to the actual gaming benchmarks, we have CSGO, and in 1440p with pro settings, this one was obviously no match for this baller AF build, as I got an average FPS of 257. Getting towards the end here, we have Rogue Company. Like I explained in the $700 gaming PC build guide video from last week, I finally figured out how to uncap the FPS for this one, and in 1440p with ultra settings, I got 170 frames per second. And for the last gaming benchmark, we gotta round things out with Fortnite, and in 1440p with pro settings, aka low with epic view distance, I got an average frame rate of 245. Just like usual, we got some 3D Mark action to run just for consistent comparisons across my builds or even your own builds at home, and with the ray tracing Port Royal benchmark, this build cranked out a score of 8,352, and finally for 3D Mark Time Spy, which doesn't have ray tracing, I got a score of 12,853. Be sure to let me know in the comment section what you thought of my vinyl job, how I configured all of these RGBs, and just what you thought about the build in general. Also, feel free to click the video that's on the screen now if you want to see another high-end build like this one, but in that one, I didn't have nearly as many problems that I did with this one. But either way, I hope you enjoyed this video.